G'day Munchkin. I recently made my HEX and PulseChain video about how we measure different parts within the ecosystem. Today's focus is going to be on the pulse to HEX ratio. It's going to give us insight to the future of where the coins are going to go. The Australian Prime Minister called me and he was very upset about the high value content I'm giving and that he can't bridge the pulse chain.
That's a bloody outrage, it is! I want to take this all the way to the Prime Minister! Hey! Mr. Prime Minister! Andy!
Aye, mate. What's a good word?
Hello, baby doll. Look at you. Okay, so we have the different valuations of today's estimated market caps for eHEX, pHEX, Pulse, PulseX. I have my chart still made here for you because you're a baby doll baby cake. There are different circulations of each coin. I have my own metrics of how I measure Pulse and PulseX. It's very controversial. Everyone uses their own number. Who cares? These all make sense to me. If you watch my Revelations video that I recently uploaded, you'll see that this is all amazing, that the market is valuing exactly where I thought it should have been before. So we're going to go through this and you're going to see, you got your eHEX is still the biggest. So eHEX is still 2.7 billion. pHEX, 1.5 billion. Pulse is 1 billion. PulseX is 500 million, so 0.5 billion. Today's video, right, but we are speaking about Pulse to HEX. So we don't have proper trading view charts yet. I want to actually do the real chart of what I'm about to show you. The real chart, so this is not the real chart. This is Pulse to HEX. So do not do this. So what you want to do is, okay, you want to look at the PLS to HEX. This is what you want to do. You look at the store of value on the bottom. That's what we're doing right here. So what I did was I went to, if you look on Dex screen right here, you go to HEX to Pulse, you click on that, and when you get there, switch, you go up here, see this top right, three little buttons of friendship, you go to invert pair. You want to look at the Pulse to HEX ratio. This is exactly what we already look at in crypto. Everybody looks at the ultimate risk on indicator, which is the ETH BTC chart, Ethereum versus Bitcoin. Do you want to know something else fascinating? I was on a treadmill, and when I figured this out, it was absolutely nuts. Let's go back and have a look at what the market did with the valuations of each coin. So after the launch, we all took a big fat poopy. That's what happened with all the coins, right? HEX dumped, everything dumped. Right, we took a big fat poopy and the market cap split. So I'm going to quickly show you the chart. So there's been like horrific dumping. This is when everyone was like, Richard Hart, everyone was messaging me, right? So you want to ask, where did the value go, right? So this is a good question, right? Where did the value go? Now, before this happened, this was a launch, right? Everybody realized, oh, PulseChain's out. Before this came out, the general consensus was that everybody would dump their eHEX and all the value would go straight to pHEX. So everybody thought eHEX would halve. This is HEX on Ethereum. I still think it's the contrarian play to have right now. Don't go all in on it. It's just if you have any spare money and you don't know what you choose, this is what I've done, okay? So this is the contrarian play. And we all thought, hey, this halved from like 6 cents down to 3, all right? So from 6 to 3. And we go, okay, well, I guess pHEX should be 3 cents and eHEX is 3 cents. But if you go back and you look, all right, HEX here, it's 2 cents, but it wasn't really 2 cents, okay? It was, if you look at, let's look at the USD pricing, for a while, I mean, the liquidity is just coming in. It was like 1 cent, 1.5 cents, all right? So it's still under HEX on Ethereum. Look at this, I've even got the line here because you're a baby doll baby cake munchkin. What's going on? Well, if you watch my video, now I'll explain to you again. The market cap split everywhere because the market is valuing all of these coins as one Richard Hart coin. So this is one Richard Hart coin, right? And his market cap is 5.7 billion, right? This is what it is. Now, some people, look, I'm not even going to pretend that anything different's going on here because it's not, all right? When you buy Tesla, when you buy Doge, you're buying into the market cap of Elon Musk. When you buy Ethereum, you're buying into the market cap of Vitalik. I know everyone's going to lose their minds and go, no. Yes, accept it into your heart. That's just how it is. When Steve Jobs was alive, you were buying into the market cap of him. This is just the truth. People buy into leaders and founders. That's what it's all about. It's a mind share. You go back and look out through history, this explains a lot. All right, so Richard Hart's market cap is 5.7 billion. And, you know, in my previous video, I said, hey, perhaps the future lies in trying to not try to pick out which is the coin that's going to do well, but trying to see, hey, as a collective whole, if the people who come in, if they keep overlapping, then we can kind of guess where the market cap is going to land. And it all depends really on Richie, because it's going to do well no matter what. But is it going to be super spectacular well or kind of well? Kind of good, right? Because super spectacular will depend on the next million people coming in. Are the next million people that adopt PulseX, are they going to be very different to the next million people that come to Pulse and the next million people that come to HEX? Or will they have a lot of overlap? So the one we want is where they don't have much overlap, just like ETH BTC. That's what we want, right? Because if you go back to this ETH BTC, I mean, look, ETH BTC, I know that they're kind of competing with each other, trying to be store of value, trying to get the highest price, but they are really branching out in the network. If an Ethereum maxi with a lot of money and a Bitcoin maxi with a lot of money, if they combine together, you got a giant, big, fat network. You're not really diluting and spreading yourself. And this already happened. This was able to be seen when we looked at the sacrifice phase. Because, you know, so people have, so this way, everyone asked, okay, how come pHEX isn't exactly worth eHEX? Well, this is what surprised us and makes sense now when you look back. The people who sacrificed for Pulse and PulseX, they were just shoving away, they were rotating market cap away from HEX into Pulse and into pHEX. They weren't grabbing new value from other places anywhere near as much as they could have. This isn't necessarily a bad thing. This is more of a vote of confidence, because I left you with messages in my previous video mentioning that this is what you want to see, because you don't want to buy with the next million people. You want to buy before them. So we're in the best spot because the current people in the network, they just got more wealthy. So everybody in the HEX community got more wealthy after 2 years after they did 1000X, and they were able to basically were able to fund the next big project, which is what they've done. So this is a better situation compared to if more people all around the world contributed that money instead. Because then me and you, when we're contributing to Pulse and PulseX, we have a much worse average price compared to what the future people are going to pay. Right? So if all these people had come in, we would probably have less of a runway. Okay, so this is much different. This is different. So there is a big advantage to what happened. And it's not perfect, but it is what it is. We're going to have to deal with that. So Pulse and HEX. I can't get the real chart because you can't chart this on TradingView yet. You can chart wrapped Pulse. So we can start to look at this, but I can't chart wrapped HEX. So I can't chart pHEX on here. So what I would want to do, so in an ideal world, I would want to look at Pulse versus eHEX plus pHEX. This is going to be the real ratio, all right? This one we see right here is not the real ratio. This one is just probably going to go up over time, okay? Because it's just one of them. It's half. But now we know, well, no, we know. Theory, right, from me, because you're a baby doll, baby cake. Now we know all the dilution that's happened. It's really important to look at a combination of both. And the key all come down to, when I figured it out, was ETH BTC. So, all right, why do I have this rectangle here? It's for a reason. Because what I did was I went and I saw how big is Pulse relative to HEX right now. Okay, so you're going to remember PLS equals layer 1 equals Ethereum. Okay, and HEX equals store of value equals Bitcoin. Okay, so this is what they are, the same use cases. So ETH BTC, right, if you're reading this, it's 0.067 on the far right. You have a look at that, right? 0.067, you can see, okay? 0.067 on the far right here. Now, when you look at that, what does that mean? It means, well, Ethereum is 6.7% of Bitcoin's price, but I want to look at their real valuations. So that's why I have the flippening up here. I always leave this up here. So you should know this number off by heart, 0.16. ETH BTC, you should know this. ETH BTC at 0.160 equals flippening. This is, if there's one number in crypto you have to know, you got to know this. Every time Ethereum marches closer, it marches closer to a flippening to that number, right? So right now, what I want to do is I just show you, well, 6.7 on 16. So what I'm doing is I'm seeing how far away are we from the flippening. You can check that out, right? We are about 40% of the way. So you can actually see there's a website with a loading bar, but you just calculate it yourself. Very easy. So Ethereum is about 41, 42% of the size of Bitcoin. And eventually it will flip it. Eventually. We're seeing like this chart is no accident, right? This chart is no accident. It's grinding up. It's going to keep burning. They're probably going to keep achieving the dream, and it's going to probably happen over time. Don't know when, but it'll probably happen over time. So I thought it was interesting when I sat down and I had a eureka moment. I thought, well, I wonder what the collective mindset of everybody. See, on average, if you talk to anybody, anyone, no one has any idea what they're doing when it comes to Pulse and all this. We don't know what the hell we're doing. Everyone's just in. But if you take the aggregate of everybody, what was the collective mindset of everyone? That's an efficient market pricing mechanism, right? The average of everybody. What did they do? Well, if you take 1 billion over 3.7, you get the lower end of the box I just drew. I'm going to go back to ETH BTC. It's about 4%, all right? So the very, very low end of this box. So I just found that I don't think it's like a coincidence, man. Like you might think, oh, it's not exactly. It doesn't have to be exactly. But isn't that amazing? Like think about it, the line isn't up. It didn't value it up here and it didn't value it down here. What are the chances of that? Okay, I want you to have appreciation for that. Because we all thought it was going to be much different, right? I thought Pulse was going to open 10x higher, okay? I thought it was going to be, I really think the community is worth 10x higher, but now I know the whole network is probably worth, right, what the original value was, what I thought was. So I thought Pulse was worth 6.7 billion, which is a 10x, but now I realize, oh no, actually the whole community is worth that much. That's what I mentioned in my past video. So if you add up all the market caps of Richard Hart, it's about 6 to 6.7 billion, roughly around that number. So I was right about the number, but I was wrong because I thought it was going to be in every single coin. It's just, this to me was just fascinating that, look, it could have gone anywhere on this line. Look at this arrow. We could have gone anywhere up here, right? We could have opened we could have opened like, yeah. So remember, the line is a flippening. So here, if we opened with the Pulse to HEX ratio, if we opened here, it would have been, Pulse would have been 5x above sacrifice phase. Up here would have been a 2x. So a 10x, sorry. So 10x and then a 5x, right, all the way down here. Isn't this just crazy? Crazy how we could have gone anywhere and we landed exactly on this mark. So the collective mindset of everyone has basically reflected ETH BTC ratio in Pulse to HEX ratio, which is nuts. And I'm going to get you quickly my original chart because you're going to like this, all right? My original chart will show you there's a very special Easter egg which is going to shock you like you've never been shocked before. This is my very famous cute chart with all the nice things. I want you to read this name up here. Have you heard of a man named Ric Hard Easter Egg? This man's target for ETH BTC is 0.5. Yes. He was in a Twitter Spaces. I don't know if he was smoking something. I don't know. But they asked him clearly. They go, hey, sit down and tell me what's your Bitcoin target, what's your Ethereum target? And his Bitcoin target was about, he goes, well, he says Bitcoin target upper end, within the next 5 years, maybe 5 to 10 years. I think he said specifically 5 years, but I'm just a bit scared for this number, right? So he says Bitcoin target's about 200K. And then they said, okay, what about the Ethereum target, sir? And he said, about 100K. I was like, what? Does this man understand the ratio he was talking about? I don't know. Nobody followed up with that question because only I would have. I'm like, what? Really? But I'm shocking because I don't know if this is a fluke. I'm like, He's smart enough to know this. Like, if your ETH BTC ratio is up here, then baby dolls, we are going to kill it. Like, your kids will never have to work if this happens. This will be if we actually get that. This is gargantuan. So this is why Easter egg for you. Easter eggs full of chocolate and goodness and surprises. If Richie himself is bullish on ETH BTC, he's basically telling you, without telling you, right? He's telling you the direction, telling us of Pulse to HEX. He's telling us PLS HEX is going to go up over time. I am scared of what I'm about to tell you because I don't want anybody to hurt themselves. I am not. So I'm going to write this down just so we can confirm. Okay. So even though now we're going to write this down. Okay. We're going to write this down just to confirm. And if you are my friend, please confirm friendship in the comment section. So PLS over, right? eHEX plus pHEX. Right. This is probably going up. Okay. So this is probably going up over time. So we're going to get the PLS. We're going to get little eHEX and pHEX. We're going to look at these. This is probably drifting up over time. So wherever it is right now. So, but I don't know. I don't think it's going to go like this, by the way. I think it's going to act like the ETH BTC chart, which means, look at this. So this was the beginning of the ETH BTC chart. Like, it went absolutely nuts. But now, do you see how it does like this little grindy thing? It goes sideways for 2 years and then up. Now it's probably going to go sideways for 2 years, and then we get some flippening somewhere, right? This mayhem was first cycle stuff, okay? So perhaps that might be an indication into our future. Plus, all the liquidity is going to be bonded, so that kind of increases the probability it's going to happen. So we might not have a runaway event. But we might find that in the next million people, as more people adopt the network, they're like HEX, but they're not super crazy about it. They might be here for Pulse. That's what we might find. It might upset a bit of the HEX OGs, just like Bitcoin maxis get upset. They're like, man, what happened? But this is what it is. The whole ecosystem wins. Okay, so but I'm telling you this now, so you don't get disappointed later. So instead of the runaway parabola, right? We might get like up and down like this. We might get something like this, and that might take years. Maybe after 2 years, maybe it's just like some drifting upwards. That's what might happen. Okay, so this is no guarantee. And most of us, like, if you've got more HEX than Pulse, like a lot of us do, including myself, I don't think it's wise to take a full punt on this. I don't. Because think about, like, I just want you to know, right? You can go back. I mean, there's so much juicy information in the chart. I wish someone taught me this when I started, right? So you can go, this isn't the full ETH BTC chart. ETH BTC started like really low, right? So it went nuts, okay? So ETH BTC, if you had Bitcoin and you did the Ethereum ICO, just like if you had HEX and you did the Pulse sacrifice, it's the same thing, right? It didn't matter if you put all your Bitcoin in because Ethereum succeeded. You didn't need to put all your Bitcoin in, right? Ethereum used to be, so one Bitcoin used to buy 500 Ethereum. Now one Bitcoin only buys about 15 Ethereum, okay? So you can just do that number. Right, 500 on 15. I don't think we're going to get this multiplier, by the way, because we start much later. Okay, so just to let you know, yeah, gave you 33x. Isn't that crazy? 33x. So you didn't even need to put that much. So that's like saying if you put your HEX bag, if you only sacrificed 5% of your HEX bag for Pulse, if we repeated this, then your whole HEX bag actually eventually doubles because HEX grows tremendously strong. It's not like HEX is, so Pulse goes tremendously strong. And so it's not like the store of value disappears. It's just that it slows down, right? So now we know HEX is also in its second cycle. Pulse is in its first one. So we have these different pieces of information here. It's not going to be about which one you go all in on, right? Because I promise you, we got a lot of factors that tell me yes and no for both. Because, layer ones, everyone says, oh, layer ones. Like, dude, layer ones, they already had a narrative in 2017. They had a narrative in 2021. How much can we really keep going euphoric? That's something to think about. Okay, so there are different factors that are they're going back and forth. And whenever I find myself wrestling with a lot of these back and forth factors, I'm telling you from experience, that means the charts don't even, they don't go like that or that, okay? The charts usually go like, wee-hoo-hoo, oh no, oh, that's what ends up happening. Every single time I look back, I'm like, man, I was so indecisive about whether this thing would go up or down based on ratios and spread. That's what the chart ends up looking at, just one big fat range. And I was like, oh man, all that stress for nothing. All those months of work for nothing. So this is what I kind of feel is going to be the same situation as this. But on an individual level, probably Pulse just outperforms one of the hexes. That's what we might find. Should you rotate out? I don't want you to have that approach. Don't. I feel bad even thinking like you shouldn't even touch on your hex. It's just like have, you know, maybe when Bitcoin was $200 and you had 10 Bitcoin. Yeah, you could have put 2 Bitcoin into Ethereum and you killed it. So just like if someone had, you know, 300,000 hex, maybe they put like, you know, 50,000 hex into PLS. Maybe that ends up killing in the long run as well. But humans are smarter now. The baby dolls are coming in. More people are getting aware. Bitcoin and Ethereum themselves are diminishing. That's another factor. We're getting less euphoria raves on average. I hope we break it, but hey, I'm just being honest. So I would rather you... Can you work a second job? Can you work a third job? Can you sell anything around the house? Do you really need that second car? Do you have any mittens to sell? Can you get any cash savings anywhere? Do you have stocks? Some of you, for some reason, are still bag holding stocks. Dude, get out of stocks now. I had a baby doll, baby cake. If you're listening, God bless you. This guy was panicking to me because he doesn't want to take a loss in stocks. Do you know how much he's down? He's down 17% in stocks. I said, Habib, crypto is down 90% from the top. 90%. And we're going to give you, literally, if you bink this, you get a 10x minimum. You can get 20 times your money. The stonk ain't giving you 20 times. I would kill to only be 17% down in stuff I held from 2021. You are still in a position of strength. Book it out, rotate in, and thanks for coming, man. Don't worry about your price quote. You got to think about what the next move is. It doesn't matter about the past. You got to think about, okay, what's going to happen in literally the next 2.5 years? Because your stonk ain't going 2,000%, which is 20x. Your stonk ain't doing that. But crypto has a chance to. And whoop-de-doo, what? If it doesn't, okay, you only get 700%. Still a lot of money, man. You're making 7 to 8 times your money. That's still great. So think about how you can raise cash out there. That is the most important thing to do. I would rather you use new money to buy Pulse. Of course, the bridge is clogged. You can buy HEX on Ethereum right now on Uniswap in the meantime. But on average, I would rather you doing that. If you say to me, hey, I'm literally living on breadcrumbs, I am down to my last pair of woolly socks, I'm too scared to check under them because there might be a hole in it. If you are in that position, you should get some Pulse. How much you want to get? Completely up to you, okay? You might even do some yield farming on the PulseX farms, okay? So there is no right approach, but I think myself that just have all of them. All right, have all of them, please, because this ETH BTC is going up. Right? Ric Hard told us himself. Ric Hard told us that, hey, you know, ETH BTC. He said Ethereum's definitely going to flip Bitcoin. I'm like, okay, well, that's it. That was it. I had this prophecy years ago. I go, that dude says it. All right, it's happening. You know what I mean? This is more confirmation. So he's kind of telling you PLS goes up, but you know, it doesn't mean parabola. All right. So what have you learned today, baby dolls? Okay, you've learned probably the pulse to hex ratio, even though we can't chart it fully correctly, probably that goes up over time. And this might upset some OG hexicans because they love hex, they love it. But it is, now we have a rift because just like how the early Bitcoin baby dolls were like, oh man, who are these new Ethereum cool kids? I don't really like them anymore. But hey, Ethereum added value. So yeah, it's the truth. The truth is Pulse is going to add value in ways Hex couldn't. And that sucks for the Hex community. But does it really suck? Because you're in it with me and all the liquidity is bonded. Isn't that fantastic? You know, Ethereum and Bitcoin, they're kind of rivals. Like when Ethereum goes up, it ain't dragging Bitcoin yet. It wouldn't it be amazing if someone named Ric Hard was able to make a coin that was liquidity bonded so that you didn't really have to choose, so that even if you were wrong on one of the pairs, you still made money? Oh, it just so happens it does. And there's an Australian baby doll who's done all the hard work for you. I can't believe I get this out for free sometimes. I promise you. Okay, so look. You have your portfolio set. Do whatever you can to get everything. Okay, do whatever you can. Get everything. Don't pick and choose. All right, the contrarian play is HEX on Ethereum right now. Get all of them. You're going to stake these. You can play around with the yield farms. Don't do, please, for the love of God, okay, in these yield farms. Okay, when I say play around in yield farms, okay, yes, I'm in the yield farms, but I promise you right now, I will break every single one of your necks if I hear one of yous is in any of these poo-poo yield farms. I don't want to see any of you. This is dog poop, USDT. You don't touch this. You don't even touch the WETH. You don't touch USDC. You don't touch DAI. They are poison. You don't touch them. If you have even, like, I want you to know, okay, every $1,000 put even into WETH is costing you money, okay? Because Ethereum's maximum upside is like a 4x from here. But HEX's upside could be like a 30 to 60x. So think about that. $1,000 becomes $4,000 in Ethereum, or $1,000 becomes $60,000. Would you rather have $4,000 or $60,000? That's what you want, all right? It becomes even more aggressive and disgusting in the stablecoins. $1,000 in 2.5 years is still worth $1,000 in stablecoins, and it's might worth 30, 60, or 90k depending how far we go in HEX. So this is super important. I don't want to see you playing in the poo-poos. If you say to me, oh, the yield's too low. Okay, well, the yield's too low. Suck it. That's why all these yield farms, they throw a carrot on the stick. What ends up happening is we're in a couple of these yield farms, and the people who can't accept that the yield is down low, like 20% down here, the people who can't accept that, what they start doing is, right, behind everyone's backs, they start trimming their portfolio, aka dumping. They start dumping and they go, oh, if I just got this USDC farm, I'll get a bit of couple of percents higher. No, you won't. You put your pants back on. Mr. Prime Minister, please. There are cameras everywhere. Like, subscribe, bell button, all friends. I think mum and dad need to hear from you. You appreciate them. Catch you in the next one.